E360 TV proudly presents messages of inspirational stories. Live streaming now to millions of devices, including Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, with your host, Donna and producer and host, Jim Grant, producer and host, along with Michaela Vidal, administrator and host, and Gaia Ginwa Balconi Wada, editor-in-chief.
Good afternoon and welcome back to the Messages of Inspirational Stories. Jim, brand new week. We are so excited.
Yeah, it starts over every week. We start out on Monday, and we just go all the way down through Friday. I tell you right now.
Yeah, we're lucky that way.
Yeah. We planned it that way too.
Yeah.
I tell you right now, Friday, that was a great show. I looked at that again, and I really, not because of us, but the content that just flowed. And that's one of the things that's powerful about our show. We don't squelch the energy. There's a lesson in that. Follow the energy. Very, very important in life. Don't make decisions, make options instead. That way you're open to the energy. And because I had no idea we were going to talk about people like Aristotle or one of his students, Alexander the Great.
Right.
All the things that he did there, because when it comes to excelling in life and people who, I like the rags to riches story.
I do too. I love the underdog.
Yeah. And one of the individuals I'd like to talk about is a guy by the name, let's see, we're forgetting something, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
National
Today.
See, on Monday, I got to be retrained. It's just all there is to it. Well, today, ladies and gentlemen, is June the 20th. And my goodness gracious, we got a lot of things this here is the National Ice Cream Soda Day.
Yum.
Yeah.
Nothing like a good root beer float.
Oh, yeah. That when I think about root beer floats, I think about A&W root beer. It was a great little drive in there. And
it was a huge treat to be taken to A&W root beer.
Yes, it was.
Right? That didn't happen too often, when I was little.
That's what makes things like that so special, when it's a treat for you. And that's something, Donna, I think that people should, in life, treat themselves, the little things. Husband and wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, spouses, lovers, whatever, but learn how to treat yourself to just something simple, that's unique, that's just yours. It doesn't have to be fancy.
Right.
Not at all. In fact, the simpler it is, the better it is, because if it's real simple, most people won't be doing it, but it is something that you would do together. Right. Also, today is National Vanilla Milkshake Day. And I tell you, for years, my favorite milkshake was chocolate. And then I kind of expanded a little bit from my different flavors, but I'm such a chocoholic, and was such a chocoholic that chocolate was it,
That just stuck.
Yep. And okay, we know what day it is today, right? I heard that. Go ahead.
National Bring Your Cat to Work Day. Glock, say hi.
Yeah, whether you want to or not,
Right.
But it's amazing. Can you imagine some cats going to work? I mean, of course, if you got a home office or whatever, if you're working digitally out of your home, that's not a problem. But at a brick and mortar establishment, some cats, oh my goodness.
Well, there are a few cats that will just be totally fine, curled up in their little house, or their little bed. But as a rule, most cats will just take off.
Yeah. Because, hey, I got to conquer this domain. This is my new domain I've got to conquer. I got to let the world know I'm here. And that reminds me of in Sierra Vista, Arizona, there was a little company, a little florist called Sierra Vista Florists. And I remember back in the 70s, I'd go there and pick up flowers, and they had a resident cat. It was Siamese. Her name was Kathy. So if any of you folks out there in Sierra Vista land remember that, you might remember Kathy, but she would come out when people would walk in and she would greet her customers with a meow, meow, meow. I mean, not a typical Siamese, like look at me, adore me, worship me, but don't you dare touch me. Right. That's normally Siamese. But she was very, very special. And I really think, when you think about it, the reason why we went there, you can pick up flowers just other places too. Not as common back then as it is now to pick up flowers. You can pick them up at Walmart, supermarkets, wherever.
Right.
But I really believe a lot of people went in there to pick up flowers just to see Kathy. Because the lady told me, she says, there was one time Kathy got sick or something. She was dealing with something, had to take her to the vet. So she left her at home. Everybody came in. First words out of their mouth. Where's Kathy?
Right.
She was the business. And that brings us up to, this is also under awareness for animals. This is the Animal Rights Awareness Week. Mm-hmm. Animals have the right to be treated with love and respect. They really do.
Right. And, one of the things I do here at my house is I put out a big bowl of water for the birds.
Oh, yeah, we do too.
Right. It's so hot here. Mm-hmm. And when you see a bird flying and their little beak is open, that means they're hot. Right. They are really hot. So I put out a little bowl of water, and they so richly give me a bazillion palm tree seeds that grow in my yard that I have to pull out.
Oh, yeah. I hear you. Today is also the National World Refugee Day. And this is a day that was set up by the United Nations in the General Assembly. It was launched back in 2000. Since then, the worldwide community has spent the day focusing on ways to improve the lives of refugees. Because everybody needs a helping hand. And then when you get that helping hand, what do? It's like a smile. If someone gives you a smile, you give them a smile, and you give others a smile. Yeah, exactly. And that's a very important thing to do and a good, worthy cause. Right. Also, I've never heard of this. This is the National Pollinator Week, excuse me.
Oh, we need those.
Yes, bees are very, very important in our lives. The little creatures, the way they pollinate things, it's...
bees and butterflies and all of the things that pollinate. Moths, they help pollinate.
Yeah, they sure do. Birds and butterflies and, pollinators are insects and small bird animals like birds, butterflies, bees that pollinate plants and make our gardens and the world greener. It produces our food. It's amazing. And also for our trees. It's just really amazing. And we need to appreciate these little things. And this also falls into the category of, being good stewards of what we have, which is the earth.
Right. Being a good steward of the earth and helping take care. I know when I go out and have to skim my pool, and if there's a bee that's gone in the water to get a drink and they die, it really upsets me. And my husband will go out and try and net the pool before I get out there because he knows how upset I get. Or every now and then he'll say, "Babe, there was a bee and I saved him."
Oh, yeah, you made her day. Yeah.
Yep, got one today. I saved him. He didn't drown. I'm like, yay.
Yeah. One of the individuals I'd like to talk about is a guy. He dropped out of school, and he was not, because a lot of people, and I'm not encouraging, don't get me wrong, I'm not encouraging people to drop out of school or get out of education, but he was brought up in a different type of environment. And he's written 4 books on business, and he's outspoken about how he feels about things, and I understand that and I respect that. But he grew up with Jewish parents, and he grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and he was one time a truck driver. And
he had 2 siblings, and he just grew up. He attended North Michigan University, and he eventually graduated with a BA, but he started poor.
Right.
And he was able to see and I want to talk a little bit about this before I mention the guy's name or the business. A lot of people feel, whether they're young or old or whatever, the reason why they cannot be successful is that they're poor. They don't have any money, or they don't have a good education, or they don't have this, or they don't have that. Richard Branson's not known for having, he didn't graduate with honors anywhere, did he?
Right.
But my point being, that is a story that we justify in our minds. And when you take a dream and there's something else, the hidden secret you got to add to it, that is your word, your honor, and your integrity. It goes hand in hand. That's the glue that holds everything together.
Right. Don't lose the circumstances that you're at right now. Don't use those as a crutch.
Right.
Use it as to empower you to go where you want to go.
And one individual who used that integrity, word, and honor, that didn't have any money, that was able to borrow millions of dollars, was Conrad Hilton. He built the Hilton hotels and all that. And he started out very dirt poor.
Right.
But the individual I was talking about originally, I want to finish his story, was Howard Schultz. And someone might say, well, who is Howard Schultz? Ever hear of Starbucks? Yeah. And there's a guy right here in Texas. I can't remember his name, but he started Sports Clips. And he franchised it, started in 1993 with an idea and a dream. My point being, in talking about this in a 40,000 altitude level, if you have a dream, and you may not have a high school education or a college education or any type of a specialized experience, so what? How many people have set up successful Amazon stores who have never taken a tech course in their life?
Right.
Because having the knowledge and knowing how to apply the knowledge and use people who are experts in that field, that's the same thing that Henry Ford did.
Right.
And I'm kind of, Donna, forgive me, I'm kind of up here in the clouds giving a shotgun effect. But for some reason, I just felt like I needed to get this week started off right, because so many people out there, they use these excuses as crutches, as stories. And Donna, I know in your counseling, when you talk to people, you've had people come in and they bring their baggage. This is my problem.
Baggage.
Yeah. And sometimes I imagine you've seen where people they appear to enjoy dragging that baggage around. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, sometimes. And sometimes we get caught up in it and we don't even know that's what we're doing. Right? So,
exactly.
I tend to look at life as forever optimistic. Not saying that I don't realize that things can be negative and things can get you down, but I choose to look on the brighter side, because for me, that's the only way to live.
Yes.
Right? I'm always optimistically hopeful.
Yeah, I tell you, it's really amazing when you think about that, and the way you look at life. Because what did I'm trying to think of his name, Zig Ziglar say?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, your attitude will determine your altitude. Just think about that for a moment. How many people do we know that's always doom and gloom?
Right.
And they just really struggle with life in general. And I know you wanted to talk about a couple of people. I've got some more people I want to talk about. I'll give you a chance to talk, because I've been running my mouth too much.
You're fine. I want to talk about Charles R. Drew.
Okay.
So he was born in 1904 and he died in 1950. He was an American surgeon and a medical researcher. And his research was in the field of blood transfusions and developing improved techniques for blood storage. And he applied his expert knowledge in developing large-scale blood banks early in the World War II. This allowed medics to literally save thousands of lives, right, of Allied forces during the war. And as the most prominent African American in the field, he protested against the practice of racial segregation in the donation of blood, as it lacked any scientific foundation, and resigned his position with the American Red Cross, which maintained that policy, unfortunately, until 1950. So, we owe him so much.
Yes.
Being able to store blood and be able to do transfusions. I mean, my gosh, we hear about this every day. We know people who've had to do that, right?
Yeah.
And so, we just owe all these people that we've talked about, Jim. I really feel like we just owe them a huge thank you.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And really what makes them such superstars, and they should be looked at as superstars, people that do things like this.
Oh, absolutely.
Is because their cause for doing it was bigger than their desire to make money. How many people right now, maybe you may fall prey to this, but the only reason why you want to do what you want to do is to make money, and it's all about you.
Right.
I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm just saying this as a wake up. I mean, if it's all about you, so what?
Right.
People talk about, well, I want to leave a legacy, but they don't do anything except try to make money for themselves. That's a major disconnect. People like this gentleman here, he that's a legacy, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. I mean, that is something that has just gone on forever. And, it's incredible what he did at the time. And especially, back when there was so much racial unrest and ignorance, quite frankly, just flat ignorance and hatred. That, if you're a different color skin, then your blood's going to be different. And that's what he was, had a real issue with. But he was the one who pioneered it. He was the one who pioneered that. And without that, I mean, I'm not saying that somebody maybe wouldn't have come along, but it came at the right time. Like we always talk about, look at the energy. He had the gift to make something happen, and he followed through with it.
Because when you have the gift at the right time, the energy is going to come to you, and it's going to, flash things into your mind.
It will.
And it's very, very important for you to act on that, because if you get the idea, chances are you either have that gift or you're in a position where people that have that gift that can work together for the same common cause.
Right. You can help facilitate it.
Yeah. I mean, I've never had an idea come to my mind that I should be a brain surgeon. I don't have that gift that take in the heart that it takes to be a doctor or someone in the medical field. And I use that as an example. And some of the other things that come to me, either I have that gift or I know someone that does, and I'm the catalyst to get that going. I really believe that with all my heart. I truly do.
Absolutely. You always seem to come up with amazing ideas first thing in the morning after you slept on it overnight. That's when your ideas come, and then we get on the phone and then we brainstorm about it, and boom, we put it in play. Yeah.
And then about 10 o'clock, my brain just shuts down. I got to act my age. But I mentioned this guy a little bit earlier about Richard Branson. Oh my goodness gracious. A lot of people did not realize or may not know that he suffers from dyslexia. And he had such a poor academic performance on his last day of school. His headmaster, a guy by the name of Robert Drayson, Drayson, told him he would either end up in prison or become a millionaire.
Well, I think he surpassed the millionaire status a few times.
Yeah, and I don't think he ever went to prison either.
No,
In fact, he's the third oldest guy to ever go into space. I think he's 71 now, but at age 70. And it's just amazing how, another great writer I'm trying to think of his name. I always liked his shows. I'll think of it in just a moment. But Stephen Cannell, he was a writer. He had several TV shows. And Stephen Cannell, let me pull it up here right quickly, if I may. But he was also one that suffered from dyslexia.
Mm-hmm.
And he was told that, he could never, make it or anything like that. But yet, Stephen Cannell, he was born in 1941. He died in 2010. He was a screenwriter. He worked on the Rockford Files, the A-Team, Renegade, the Greatest American Hero, 21 Jump Street, The Comish, and most notably the Shane Scully mystery series. But he had such a fantastic career, such a fantastic mind. He was just, there's just a huge, long list of films that he worked on as well as TV shows. And he did suffer from, dyslexia. But here again, don't ever let something that's physical, let me put it like
setback, that. Any kind of a setback.
Yeah. Don't let that squelch your energy, because your energy and the physical are two different worlds.
Right.
They really are. Love and abundance that's the energy. It comes from the universe, from up above, the higher source. The physical things, like, having dyslexia or being born ugly or anything like that, that's limited to planet Earth. And Donna's trying not to smile. I said that's if I get her to smile.
He just wants me to snort.
No, but really, a lot of people let the physical squelch their creative energy,
right,
with their creative spirit, ideas. And that is one thing that people, you should recognize it and say, leave me alone.
Well, this is just our physical self. But that doesn't make up who we are. What we are and who we are is the spirit that resides within us.
There you go.
How you treat people, how you treat yourself, how you respect yourself, how you love, how you give. All of these things. I could just go on for the entire show about it.
Oh, yeah.
What good you do. Do you do something that is helpful without ever, no one's around. Because to me, that's the truest gift of helping, right? When you do something and no one's around to recognize it. Or if you, just out of the blue, do something for a complete stranger.
Yeah. You're exactly right. Because when you give off positive energy, it attracts positive energy. Just like when you give off negative energy, that's what's going to come back to you.
Oh, yeah.
If I said something and I'm using this only as an example. If I'd looked at Donna and said, Donna, my goodness gracious, did you look in the mirror before you came on TV today? And she would automatically flare up and say, well, did you look at yourself? You're so ugly. My goodness gracious. We're got the lights out on you, But see, negative energy generates negative energy. But if I say, Donna, you look very nice today. Jim, you don't look too bad yourself, or something like that. That's my point. And that goes all the way through every aspect of life. For example, Arnold Palmer was known for being a great golfer. He was also a fantastic business partner. And his business partner was a guy by the name of Mark McCormick. And you know what's very unique about Mark McCormick?
What?
Mark became his agent, and he was an attorney, a lawyer by profession. But the very unique thing between Arnold and Mark was that they were both people of integrity. Their word was worth something.
In fact, if I recall right, they didn't even have a contract.
Bingo. They never once had a contract between them. No type of a legal document.
Right.
And that's the type of reputation you want to have, because your word, your name, your honor, your everything is straight up. And that's why you want to project positive energy everywhere you go. You want to give. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you want to give a smile when you can.
Mm-hmm.
And get
so the one thing I want to interject on the energy is it is really sometimes difficult when you're around somebody who is constantly negative or who's constantly putting you down. And it's something that we have to learn to do. But, you know, I've mastered that for the most part. And even when something, when in my close family circle, my family, my friends, and somebody says something that may be hurtful, I don't live in that moment. So I'll think about it and kind of process it and digest it. And then I sort of, in an imaginary way, kind of just, okay, brush it off and let it go. And here's why. Because the negativity from that person, I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know if they had a bad day. I don't know if all of a sudden, you know, there's all kinds of things that could be going wrong. So maybe they took it out on me and it came out really negative. But that can't affect me, or it can, I should say, but only if I let it. Right? So it's sort of like putting up a little invisible force field that you're not going to let the negative penetrate you to the point where you become negative and down. Because when we do that, every cell in our body reacts to it. And it brings our energy down, and it can make us sick.
Absolutely. And that's a very good point there, Donna, because a lot of people let other people's negative energy determine what kind of a day they're going to have.
Absolutely.
And that's when you allow people to enslave you. And, you know, one of the things, too, I'd like to talk a little bit about here is that people think you got to be young, start out young to be successful. How many people do you personally know that, you know, they started a little later in life, kind of like a Johnny come lately, you know?
Right.
Oh, the one that pops into my mind is Colonel Sanders.
I was just going to say that, Jim.
Go ahead. He's a classic example, you know?
I believe oh my gosh, if my memory serves me correct, wasn't he 54 when he started?
I think he was a little older than that. I'm not sure. He wasn't no
Maybe
spring.
in his 60s.
He wasn't no spring chicken. I had to throw that in.
Nice pun, buddy. Nice pun.
But what happened was that he was forced into it.
Right.
Because he had a little restaurant there, and when the interstate system got built, because the interstate system got passed into law in 1955 by President Eisenhower. And of course, it took a while to get everything set up. When it did, it bypassed his restaurant. So now he's forced to do something. That was the catalyst. So sometimes you may be forced into a situation because the energy is saying it's time for you to move on.
Right. So not every situation that looks like it could be a bad situation, I like to look at it as a learning experience and redirecting to something better. Because it gets us out of our comfort zone sometimes, and it lets us grow and expand.
Yeah.
But we have to be ready to look at that in the proper way.
And I tell you right now, when you think of the Lady Julia Child, what comes to your mind?
An amazing cook.
An amazing cook. Well, would you believe she didn't even learn to cook until she was almost 40 years of age?
Right. I knew that.
Yeah. And it just blows my mind how people can start late in life. And, you know, success is really ageless.
It is.
And I'm going to put a little link there where I'm looking at right now, because I find it so funny, because like Phyllis Diller, I used to crack up at Phyllis Diller. If you haven't seen Phyllis Diller, or if you're, you know, young, you don't know who she is, you know, just go to YouTube and look at Phyllis Diller. She's a comedian. She became a comedian at the age of 37, and she was told by many club owners that she was too old to be a success, and she was on TV all the time.
Oh, she was a hoot, an absolute hoot.
Oh, I got to tell one. She always referred to her husband as Fang, wasn't it? When her name him Fang or something like that.
I think so, something like that.
She says, I never will forget my wedding night. Fang told me he wanted to do it with the lights on. And she says, I told him, would you shut up and close the car door?
Oh, gosh.
That is the kind of humor. And she said that on live TV back in
the day. That was pretty risque.
Yeah. But I mean, that was the kind of humor she would crack people up. And her hair was always, like it's just, like she had just got her finger out of an electrical socket or something.
Right.
But she was told by the experts she was too old to be funny, too old to become a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about that. If she would have took that as gospel, we would have never enjoyed her humor.
Right.
Because she was hilarious.
Well, how about this one? Andrea Bocelli.
Bocelli, yeah. Go ahead.
He didn't start singing opera seriously until he was 34. And some of the experts said, you're way too late to even begin that. And the thing is, he's got, I mean, every time I hear one of his songs, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't even matter what language it is. I get goosebumps. He has absolutely such an incredible voice. And how much joy and has he given the world with his voice?
Yes.
And the other reason was probably that they told him that it was too late to begin, was also probably because he's blind.
Yeah.
Well, he gets along just fine, you know? I mean, what a joy to have him in and his voice in our life.
One of the stories I like to share with people too is, sometimes we think to be creative, you've got to be young. Like coming out of college, you could be creative, you could be a cartoonist, you could be this, be that. And when you get up into your 40s or older, you're over the hill. Well, that's another myth that people build stories around, because you may see this here on that link I sent you. But Stan Lee, who was the creator of Spider-Man,
right?
He was 43 years of age when he began drawing his legendary superheroes, and his partner, Jack Kirby, was older. He was 44. But they created the Fantastic Four. And normally people would assume the creators of those superheroes would have been 20 years younger or something.
Right.
But that is not the case. I mean, these guys were in their mid-40s when they started that career. And it just goes to show you, you're never too late to start.
Right. Right.
I mean, I've known people that retired and they start a second career. And I don't consider myself retired and started a second career because I never quit working. I just did different things and continue on.
Right. Absolutely.
I'm going to be 70. I'm going to be 74 in August, and people ask me when I'm going to retire. I think, well, probably the day before I die, because I enjoy living.
Right.
And this is part of what I do in my daily life. That's the key.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the people I want to talk about, Jim, is Philo Farnsworth. So he was born in 1906 and died in 1971. He was an inventor and the television pioneer. So he made many crucial contributions to the early development of all electronic television. He's best known for his 1927 invention of the first fully functional all-electric image pickup device. So it's a video camera tube. And the image dissector, as well as the first fully functional and complete all-electric television system. So he produced commercially through Farnsworth Television and Radio Corporation in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So he developed the television system with the receiver and the camera. Later in life, he invented a small nuclear fusion device, and it's called the Farnsworth Hirsch fuser, employing I'm trying to read it. I don't have my glasses on, folks. I apologize. Right? Okay. This is a bifocal moment. Inertial
electrostatic confinement.
Yes,
IC. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like all fusion devices, it was not a practical device for generating nuclear power, although it provides a viable source of neutrons. The decision of this device has been the inspiration for other fusion approaches, including the Pollywell reactor concept. He held, are you ready for this? Over nearly 300 patents, mostly in radio and television. So, you know, the fact that we can watch TV, there we go. I mean, we owe it to him.
Yeah, we sure do.
Owe it to him. How beautiful is that?
Yeah, his vision and being able, because these people, they had a vision that no one else had at that time. They really did. And it's just amazing how, you know, when someone can take a dream and an idea, or if you see a need and you got an idea that, hey, this would work better if it's like this, your cause and your contribution to society, that's how you leave a legacy, number one. Number two, that's how you become somebody. Because people who are interested in making money, they're basically a nobody. I mean, we know people that are very, very rich. When I say we know, we've heard of people very, very rich, but they're not good people. They're all about serving themselves and, you know, recognition. They want to be seen on TV. It's all about them. And I know a lot of people look up to them because they're rich. And this is why we need to adjust our minds and also let the younger kids, young people, to know that these are not role models.
Well, the one thing I think we see things differently as we get older, number one. But number two, just because somebody has money does not mean that they don't have problems in life. They go through the same dang problems we all do.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The AC stops working, that this happens, somebody gets sick. It doesn't matter. It's life. Life happens to all of us. And it doesn't matter where, if you're into the status quo, which I'm not, but if you're into that status quo in life, it doesn't matter whether you're down here or you're up here. We're all going to go through it. That's just the end of it.
Yeah. One of the people I like to talk about too, this person did not start young in life. Elizabeth Jolley. She had her first novel published at the age of 56. And in 1 year alone, she received 39 rejection letters, but finally had 15 novels and 4 short story collections published with great success. Now you think about someone that's 56 years of age, and they're writing a novel, and my goodness, they get all this rejections.
Right.
I mean, holy smokes. I mean, how many rejections letters would you take before you quit?
Right.
She got 39, but she did not quit because she had a dream. And her novels, I mean, this is some of the awards that she got in nominations. Her novels are, let me see the list here right quick, if I can get to it here. Let's see here. Okay, I can't get to it right now. But anyway, this is some of her awards and nominations that I'm on. The Age Book of the Year Award in 1983. These are all, this next one's 1983. Western Australian Premier Book Awards. And then her awards go all the way down, starting at 85, 86, 87, 88, down through 1998. She won things like Officer of the Order of Australia, the Age of the Book Year Award. She won that one there again for My Father's Moon. And she won it again in 93 for The George's Wife. And she got the Australian Living Treasure Award and Miles Franklin Award, University of Queensland Honorary Doctorate Award. And this was a person after that became very, very successful after receiving 39 rejection letters. And the National Living Treasure is a status created and occasionally updated by the National Trust of Australia's New South Wales branch. And it's awarded to up to 100 living people. The recipients were selected by popular vote by having made outstanding contributions to Australia and in the field of human endeavors. That is quite an accomplishment for a lady that's, the experts, this is nothing, 39 rejections.
Right.
So what does that say? If you're listening to an expert, you might want to, listen to someone that's got down-to-earth common sense.
Right.
It seems to be a shortage of that. We ought to package that and sell it, common sense. What do you think, Donna?
Well, if we could, we'd be able to bless the entire world.
Wouldn't that be the truth?
Yeah.
And they'd be so smart, they'd be able to bless all the Martians and everybody else in the universe.
Right.
But, who is someone else that you'd like to mention or talk about?
Well, I kind of want to talk about, if I can find it here.
Okay.
But President Lincoln.
Oh, yeah. Abraham.
Abraham Lincoln. I saw it the other day, and I didn't, like a dodo bird, I didn't write it down or make a copy of it. But what I found, and I don't have the exact number, so you'll have to forgive me, but what I found so interesting was that he failed as going into political office.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was like, I want to say it was like 7 or 8, maybe 9 times, 10 times, something like that. He did not get elected. He did not get elected, and he didn't stop, and he was born extremely poor.
In a cabin.
Yep, in a cabin. And, he was he went into business with a gentleman, and they got their liquor license for $7. And they did, even though economy was going good, they went into debt, and it forced him to sell his share. And then, of course, later he went on to be a lawyer. But the interesting thing for me was he had such a sereneness about him and a quality of very thinking things through, don't shoot from the hip, if you will. And that he never let all the times that he did not get into public office stop him. Yes.
You're exactly right. And a lot of people don't realize that he was actually self-educated all the way through his life. And he was quite an amazing man. The Supreme Court ruled against him about going into creating the Civil War.
Right.
And there was a lot of controversy about that. One of the things, of course, was to reunite the South, the Confederate States, with the Union, and in the process to also free the slaves.
Right.
And there was a lot of controversy on that. But the Supreme Court ruled against him doing that. And he went forward anyway. So he was a bit of a renegade in that regard.
Right. Right. And he had a lot of loss in his life too, and he didn't let that loss hold him back.
Yeah. And remember the TV show Fantasy Island with Ricardo Montalban? And we teased Emerson Brantley, our director of marketing, because he was working with Emory Air Freight. And they went from a small plane landing there in Jacksonville, Florida. And Emerson, being a marketing guru the way he was, he kept building it up. And where they had I think it was a 727 coming in instead of a little small plane coming in twice a week or something. They had a big plane coming in, daily. So that was big time news. And he called the corporate office and says, "Hey, this is what we got going here. This is news." And I said, that ain't news, anything unusual. Of course, they're talking about bigger airports like Chicago, New York, Dallas, wherever, flying in every day. It's no big deal. But Emerson did not take it. Their word as being the final say. he got on TV, he got on radio, he got people involved. And long story short, where I'm going with this here, one morning at 4:30 in the morning, the plane's coming in for a landing. Now, what can you see at an airport at 4:30 in the morning? So maybe the lights on the plane, okay?
Right.
And he had the Port Authority there. He had a TV news station there. He had the mayor's office there, representatives of the mayor's office. And I was teasing him. I said, did you have a little short guy with you? Say, hey, boss, the plane. That's where I'm going with Montalban. But he said, the funny thing was, picture this. Here come the pilots. They're just, they don't have any passengers. They're just hauling freight and letters and whatever, boxes.
Mm-hmm.
They land. And of course, it's 4:30 in the morning. They've been flying all night. They want to, get something to eat, maybe get something to, go to bed or whatever. They open up the door and they come out. Here's all this news. And they're kind of like, what in the world did we do? Did we land at the wrong place or what?
Right.
But Ricardo Montalban, guess what he did at the age of 68?
What?
He built his dream home. Excuse me. Can you believe that? He actually, at age 68, built the house of his dreams, like he's going to live forever. That's something that people do when they're younger,
Right.
And, 68 years of age. What does that tell you? Donna?
It tells you that you're never too old.
There you go. You're exactly right. It's kind of like the old saying, you're just as old as you stink. I mean, you're just as old as you think.
Stop. You're so silly.
I gotta make sure she's paying attention to what I'm saying.
I'm always paying attention. I just happen to. Right. I just happen to get a little interrupted with Niner in my lap.
I hear you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She wants her mama time. But, and one of the things, and we all know and have heard of Lucille Ball.
Oh, yeah.
She was quite the businesswoman.
Oh, yeah.
And she actually was the one who footed the bill for Star Trek. Mm-hmm. And when nobody else would touch it, they said it's never going to work. It's not going to, it's a waste of money. Thank you, Niner. It's a waste of money, etc. And she had the foresight from a business perspective to forge ahead.
Mm-hmm. In addition to that, her and her husband, Desi, they had the foresight to own the recordings of I Love Lucy. Mm-hmm. No one had thought of that before.
Right.
And those of us that are familiar with Gilligan's Island, one of the things the actors got upset of later on is that they never got paid any royalties on the replays. They were only paid for what they did when they were live or being recorded.
Oh, wow.
But because of the lack of vision,
right,
that she had, Lucille Ball, she had the vision though, hey, that this might be replayed sometime in the future. We want to own the show. And her and they started what? Desilu Studios.
Right.
Talk about vision, foresight, and all that.
And and that was at a time when people just didn't think like that. And people had to take her seriously. And that's one thing I love. I mean, she was a class act, but they had to take her seriously because she was one tough, smart cookie.
She was. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she didn't take a whole lot of crap from anybody, and knew what she was doing, and was a businesswoman through and through.
And this was in a man's world.
Oh, absolutely.
Where women were just starlets and stuff like that, and treated like that. I mean,
right. They were treated as you're just on the screen, but you have no brains.
Yeah, exactly. And and they were used and abused. Let me just say that. I mean, that's just the way that world turned, because she comes in and she says, no. She cracks the whip and says, no, I'm not the normal person. I'm not your normal female. Well, she walked to the beat of her own drum. And that's what it takes sometimes. Sometimes you got to go against the grain. Sometimes you got to have the gumption to get up and just say, I don't care what the experts say. Remember all the people got all those rejection letters from, you can't do this or all that advice. You'll either wind up in prison or be a millionaire. Well,
Right.
Richard Branson became a billionaire, but that's because the headmaster was right about one thing. There was no middle of the road with Richard Branson. He was either going to go straight down or straight up.
And one of the things that I absolutely hats off, salute, and admire Sir Richard Branson for is his, we've all heard it, if you treat your employees right, the customers will be treated right.
Yes, because
he takes care of his employees to the utmost, and in turn, they take care of the customers, and it's a win-win situation. How many times do we see or go to a store or go to a restaurant or wherever where you're treated poorly? And it's usually not, in all truth, I mean, we don't know 100%, but a lot of times it's probably not because of them as a person, but the way that they're being treated from a corporate standpoint, as an employee. And, and that affects badly on their business.
Yes, because all energy, whatever energy management puts out is what's going to be delivered. That's just the way the world turns. So when we've known people and known businesses where, you go in, they're upbeat, they're friendly, they're happy. Do you think they got a grumpy boss?
Right.
Who's sitting there, grumbling and complaining all the time,
hitting the whip and making them, I mean, it's just sad. And, and when we treat people well and treat them right, it's the golden rule all over again. Do unto others as you would have done to you.
And what's that old saying? You reap what you sow. I mean, how hard is this?
Right.
You can't be a horrible person and be mean and rude to people and expect them to treat you like you're the great I am when you're demonstrating you're the great I am not.
Right. Right. And, and sadly, I hope to see, again, I'm optimistically hopeful, Jim. I hope to see a change and a shift coming where people are treated better. Because, I often see it in corporate America where, they started off, a company started off, of course, here. Everyone starts at ground zero, right? And they build up. And during that first initial time, man, they treat everybody really great. And a lot of times, as they grow and get into a huge conglomerate, then they're like, oh, well, we don't have to do that because look how big we are. Right? Not, but then again, their turnover rate is extremely high, right? So I would really hope that things will change because how we treat each other, and that's unfortunately another thing that, that also reflects on our children.
Oh, yeah.
It reflects on our children, Jim.
And when someone mistreats you, just look at it like this. They got a problem. Right. And their problem is not you. They're just taking it out on you. And what you do, you just dump it. Leave it by the side.
Put it in the bucket.
I love myself enough. I'm not going to put up with that.
Right.
I'm going to walk to the beat of my own drum. I'm going to treat people the way I want to be treated. And I'll let this individual over here who willing to dump all of his ugliness, meanness, or whatever on me, I'm going to leave it with him and let him enjoy himself.
Right.
Because that's exactly what's going to happen.
Absolutely. Well, Jim, I'm going to be the bearer of bad news.
I know what you're going to say.
We are out of time.
Yes, we are. We've really enjoyed being with you today, ladies and gentlemen, and take some of these stories here and look up, if you got a child that has a specific or a young person, or maybe even you got a specific interest in a special area, do a research on it, search Google and find out people who were successful. And I don't care if it's basket weaving or whatever, it'll pull up a list. Read up on their stories. Absolutely. Read up about their life. You'll be shocked at some of the things they had to overcome.
let them inspire you.
Yes.
And
Because
don't let your dreams die.
Yeah, because you got a common interest there. Whatever your common interest is, I mean, at least that's the bridge that, will gap that.
Right.
Fill in that gap. And that's so important. Don't listen to subject matter experts who think they know everything, because I'm going to tell you something. It's just between me and you. No one knows what you think they know. Think about that for a moment. Sometimes we put people on a pedestal, but deep down inside, they don't know what we think they know.
Right.
And that applies to me, Donna, and everybody else on planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
We have a tendency to give people more credit or more credibility than they really are. In other words, they can be real big in the canyons of our minds, but in reality, and I use that as an example because if someone tells you you can't do something, they don't know you and your gifts and the resources that the energy will bring to you and deliver it in your lap.
Absolutely.
Well, I guess it's time for us to go. We're running out of quarters.
We are.
We're going to be back tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be on the number 7th episode of this famous people who have inspired us and our kids. Please be sure and share our videos and our shows with others, and get us on YouTube there. And most importantly, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you're blessed. We hope that you and your loved ones are blessed in all areas of your life. Be sure and love yourself first, then you can love others. And in my broken Spanish, el mucho, el hadioso. We'll see you tomorrow.